September 2024. Camp Pendleton, Marine Corps Base, California. The morning sun bleeds through coastal fog, the kind of light that makes everything look uncertain. The electronic scoreboard at the rifle range flashes red, then red again, then red. 67 Marine Scout snipers just failed the impossible test. The best score, 67 out of 100 targets. The course designer died 2 years ago in Syria. Died before he could prove his own test was possible. Some men whispered it was a suicide mission from the start. A test designed to humble, to break, to remind Marines that perfection lives only in manuals and dreams. Then a woman walked to the firing line. 42 years old, civilian clothes, jeans and a faded canvas jacket. She carried a worn leather rifle case, the kind that's seen countries most people can't pronounce. She stopped 3 feet from the shooting bench, looked at the staff sergeant standing there, his arms crossed, his face carved from disappointment and dust. She asked him one question. "May I borrow your rifle, Sergeant?" What happened next would change Marine Corps sniper doctrine forever. But first, the failures had to speak. The range sits in a valley between brown hills. Pendleton sprawls across 125,000 acres of California scrubland. The wind here doesn't ask permission. It takes, it pushes, it lies about direction and speed. The flags along the range snap and curl. Orange windsocks twist like men in pain. Echo Company, 2nd Battalion, 5th Marine Regiment. Their best shooters lined the benches. Each team had run the Centurion string, 100 pop-up targets. Distances from 200 meters to 900. Simulated wind changes. Thermal shifts. Mirage distortions. 90 minutes to complete. Miss 3 shots in a row and the computer locks you out. Game over. The course had a name before it had a reputation. Ghost's Gauntlet. Gunnery Sergeant Marcus Price designed it. 23 years in the Corps. 211 confirmed eliminations across 3 war zones. They called him Ghost because he moved through mountains like smoke. Because enemy combatants died without ever seeing him. Because his students swore he could read wind like some men read sheet music. He died in March 2022. Mosul Province, Syria, covering his team's extraction from a blown operation. An IED took the vehicle he was in. Took him, took 3 others. The after-action report said he'd called the wind wrong, pushed the advance when he should have waited, paid for it with his life. But the Marines who survived said different. They said Ghost read the ambush in the wind patterns, saw it coming, pushed forward anyway to draw fire away from the evacuation point. Died buying time, died doing what he always taught. Sometimes you don't fight the mission, you finish it. He'd left behind one thing, this course, the Centurion string. 100 targets, the number chosen deliberately. A Centurion commands 100 men. To pass this course meant mastering 100 different problems, 100 different wins, 100 different moments where doubt whispers and fingers tremble. No one had ever passed, not in the 2 years since Ghost died. Team 1 finished with 54 hits. The shooter's name was Corporal Davis, 26 years old, 3 tours, good instincts, decent fundamentals. He fought the wind at target 38, overcorrected, lost rhythm. The misses came in clusters after that. When the buzzer sounded, he stood up from the rifle and walked away without a word. His teammates didn't follow. Team 2 hit 61 targets. Better, still not good enough. The lead shooter was Lance Corporal Whitmore. Young, 23, fast on the trigger, but impatient with conditions. He dialed his turrets too often, chased the wind instead of predicting it. By the time he reached the 700-meter targets, his zero had drifted. Compensation piled on compensation. The math broke down. So did he. He sat on the ground after, head between his knees, breathing hard like he'd run miles instead of lying prone for 90 minutes. Team 3 came closest, 67 out of 100. The shooter's name was Staff Sergeant Garrett Brennan, 45 years old, 22 years in service. Combat deployments to Fallujah, Helmand Province, Ramadi. His hands bore scars from shrapnel and rope burns. His face carried lines that belonged to older men. He'd trained under Ghost Price for 6 months in 2019. Learned everything the legendary sniper would teach. But today, he came up 33 targets short. He stood at the shooting bench now, arms crossed, jaw tight, staring at the scoreboard like it had personally insulted his mother. The red numbers glowed in the morning haze. 67, a record for this course, a failure by its standards. Behind him, 30 Marines stood in loose formation, observers, students, fellow instructors. They'd watched all 3 teams fail. watched good shooters become frustrated shooters, watched confidence turn to confusion. The wind mocked them all equally. Corporal Tyler Quinn stood off to the side. 24 years old, lean, energetic. He held his phone up, recording. He'd filmed all three attempts. Planned to study them later, break down what went wrong. Quinn had a theory that modern shooters relied too much on equipment, not enough on observation. He filmed everything, archived everything. Believed if you watched enough failures, you'd learn how to succeed. So far, his theory wasn't working. Ghost designed this to be impossible, Brennan said. His voice carried across the range, flat, final. He died before he could prove it wasn't. Maybe that says something. Says what, Sergeant? Quinn asked. Still filming. Brennan turned, looked directly at the camera. Says some standards exist to remind us we're human, not gods. From the observation tower 50 meters away, Major Nash Sutherland nodded. He stood with his hands behind his back. Parade rest. His uniform pressed sharp enough to cut. 52 years old, infantry background, old school. The kind of officer who believed suffering built character and easy wins built weakness. He'd opposed the Centurion string from the beginning, called it a vanity project, a dead man's ego trip. But the commandant had different ideas. Wanted Ghost Course implemented. Wanted Marines pushed beyond comfortable limits. So Sutherland supervised, watched, waited for the inevitable. He just watched it 3 times in a row. Failure builds character, he said to no one in particular. Let them fail. Beside him, Colonel Wade Hollister said nothing. Hollister was 58, silver hair cut high and tight, a face that had seen combat in places the government still wouldn't declassify. He'd served with Ghost Price in the early 2000s. Afghanistan. Back when the wars were young and the objectives seemed clear. They'd shared a hooch in Kandahar. Shared meals. Shared the kind of conversations that happen when men don't know if they'll see morning. Ghost had talked about this course even then. Someday, he'd said, I'm going to prove that cooperation beats domination, that listening beats fighting, that the wind isn't the enemy. Hollister had asked what he meant. Ghost had smiled. You'll see. 20 years later, Hollister watched Marines fail the test his old friend had designed. He wondered if Ghost had been wrong. If maybe the wind was the enemy after all. If maybe some things couldn't be taught, only endured. Then he saw her. At first, just movement at the fence line. 200 meters from the range proper. Civilian access point. Someone watching. He raised his binoculars. A woman, early 40s, blonde hair pulled back in a simple tie. Civilian clothes, jeans, canvas jacket. She stood perfectly still, hands in her pockets, just watching. Her face showed no expression, no judgment, no disappointment, just observation. The kind of watching that absorbed instead of evaluated. Hollister's breath caught. He knew that posture, that stillness. He'd seen it before. In hides, in observation posts, in the seconds before a trigger broke and a target dropped. He lowered the binoculars, looked at Sutherland. I need to inspect something on the range. Excuse me, Major. Sutherland barely nodded, still watching Brennan gather his gear, still satisfied with the failure he'd just witnessed. Hollister descended from the tower, walked across the range. His boots crunched on gravel. The sound seemed too loud, like the earth itself was listening. The woman didn't move as he approached. Rowan, he said quietly. She turned. Her eyes were gray, the color of overcast skies and gunmetal. They held his gaze without challenge, without submission, just met him as an equal. Colonel, she said, didn't expect to see you here. Didn't expect to come. What changed? And she looked past him, at the range, at the scoreboard still showing 67 red failures. Heard they were running Ghost Course. Heard they couldn't pass it. You heard right. He'd be disappointed. Hollister studied her face. 2 years since he'd seen her last, at Ghost Memorial Service, Arlington. She'd stood in the back, civilian clothes then too. Hadn't said a word, hadn't approached the family. Just stood, watched, left before the 21-gun salute finished echoing. They're trying, Hollister said. Good Marines, good shooters. But they're fighting. What? Fighting the wind, fighting the conditions, fighting themselves. Rowan tilted her head slightly. Ghost would have seen it immediately. They're trying to dominate instead of cooperate. You sound like him. He taught me everything I know. Hollister glanced back at the range. Brennan was demonstrating something to a young Marine, probably explaining where he'd gone wrong, probably analyzing every shot, breaking it down into components. Trigger control, breathing, windage, all the technical pieces, missing the whole. Come with me, Hollister said. Rowan didn't move. Colonel, I'm retired. I know. I don't carry anymore. I know. I came to watch, not participate. Hollister met her eyes. Ghost would want you to participate. Something flickered across her face. Pain, old and deep, the kind that never fully heals, just scars over. She looked away, at the ground, at the skish, anywhere but at the range where Ghost's dream was failing. He's gone, she said softly. His course isn't. I can't save it. Maybe you can honor it. The words hung between them. The wind picked up, pushed dust across the gravel. Somewhere on the range, a flag snapped hard. The sound like a rifle shot. Rowan closed her eyes, breathed. When she opened them again, something had shifted. Some decision made, some line crossed. Just watching, she said. Just watching, Hollister agreed. But they both knew it was a lie. They walked toward the range together. Hollister in his service uniform, Rowan in her civilian clothes. An odd pair. The Marines noticed. Conversations stopped. Eyes tracked them. Brennan saw them coming. Straightened. Squared his shoulders. Hollister stopped 10 feet from the shooting bench. Rowan stopped beside him. She looked at the range, at the target still standing. Pop-up silhouettes at 200 meters. Steel plates at 400. Precision markers barely visible at 600 and beyond. Her eyes moved across the landscape. Reading. Calculating. Her fingers twitched slightly, like playing an invisible instrument. Old habits that never fully die. Ma'am, Brennan said, respectful but uncertain. This is a closed range. Staff Sergeant Brennan, Hollister said, this is Ms. Rowan Ashford. She's an observer today. Cleared by me. Brennan's eyes narrowed. Not hostile, just curious. Ashford. Don't know that name. No reason you would, Rowan said, her voice quiet, measured, the kind of voice that doesn't need volume to carry authority. Quinn had his phone up again. Filming, always filming. Ma'am, are you former military? No. Then why are you here? Rowan didn't answer. Just looked at the scoreboard. 67. The number glowed like an accusation, like a challenge, like a dare. Brennan was demonstrating his rifle to a young private, showing proper cheek weld, explaining sight picture. He settled behind the M40A6, lined up on a 600-meter target. Breathed, fired. The target rang. Good hit. He adjusted. Fired again. The target rang. Another hit. He fired a third time. Miss. The bullet struck right, 6 inches off center. He fired twice more. Both missed right. Same pattern, same error. Brennan swore under his breath. Stood, checked his scope, checked his turrets. Everything looked correct. But the misses didn't lie. Rowan watched, silent. Her eyes tracked from Brennan to the range, to the wind flags, to the mirage shimmer above the desert floor. She was reading, always reading, the way Ghost had taught her. 2 clicks off, she said. Everyone turned. Brennan looked at her. Ma'am, your 0, it's 2 clicks off. Drifted right. My 0 is perfect. I confirmed it this morning. You confirmed it in different wind. Yesterday's wind was east, 7 to 10 miles per hour. You adjusted 2 clicks right to compensate. Standard procedure. But this morning the wind shifted west, 3 to 5 miles per hour. Your 0 needs to come back left. 2 clicks. You're still compensating for yesterday's conditions. The range went quiet. Brennan stared at her, processing, his mind running through the math, the wind data, the adjustments he'd made. Slowly his face changed. Realization. He pulled his logbook from his pocket, flipping pages, found yesterday's data, wind 7 to 10 east, adjustment 2 clicks right. He looked at today's flags. West wind, 3 to 5. She was right. He looked up. How did you know that? Watched your pattern. 7 hits, 3 misses. All misses right side. Pattern means system error, not random error. System error has a source. Your source was 0 drift from changed conditions. Quinn lowered his phone. Who are you? Rowan didn't answer, just reached for her rifle case, set it on the bench, unzipped it slowly. Inside an M40A6, not military issue. Private weapon. The stock showed wear, real wear, not range wear, field wear, the kind that comes from dirt and sweat and long nights in places without names. Beside the rifle, a small notebook, leather cover, worn soft. She picked it up, opened it. Inside handwriting. Neat, precise, charts and calculations, ballistic data, wind formulas. And on the inside cover, 4 words in different handwriting. M. Price Semper Gumby. Brennan saw it. His face went pale. That's Ghost Dope book. Was, Rowan said quietly. He gave it to me. Went home, long time ago. She set the book down, looked at Brennan's rifle, then at him. May I borrow your rifle, Sergeant? The question hung in the desert air. Brennan looked at Hollister. The colonel's face showed nothing, just waited. This was Rowan's play. He was just the referee. Ma'am, Brennan said slowly, this isn't a YouTube tutorial. This is the Centurion string. 67 Marines just failed it. Best Marines I've got. No disrespect, but I'm a woman in civilian clothes who just showed up. Rowan finished for him. No anger, just statement. I understand your skepticism, Sergeant. It's warranted. She reached into her jacket, pulled out a leather wallet, opened it, removed a card, handed it to Brennan. He read it. His eyes widened. Department of Defense. Civilian contractor. Identification number. Security clearance level. And on the back, a range qualification card. Scores listed by year. 2002 through 2022. 20 years of perfect qualification scores. Expert marksman every single year. 20 years, Brennan whispered. Who trained you? Quinn asked. Rowan looked at Ghost Dope book, at the worn cover, at the handwriting that would never write again. Someone who believes shooting isn't about proving anything. It's about being at peace with the outcome before you press the trigger. From the observation tower, Major Sutherland had noticed the commotion. He descended, walked across the range with purpose, his face already set in disapproval. He arrived and surveyed the scene. Civilian woman? Rifle case? Marines gathered around. Colonel Hollister, he said sharply, what's going on here? Major Sutherland, Hollister said calmly, Ms. Ashford is observing today's training. Civilians don't handle military weapons. Ms. Ashford isn't a typical civilian. Sutherland looked at Rowan, sized her up, dismissed her. I don't care what her credentials are. This is a Marine Corps range. She doesn't belong here. Rowan met his eyes, didn't flinch. Major, I have DOD clearance and range qualification. Colonel Hollister has authorized my presence. If you have concerns, take them up with him. But don't presume to tell me where I belong. The steel in her voice surprised everyone, including Sutherland. He wasn't used to civilians talking back, especially not women. His face flushed. You worked with Price, he said. Not a question, an accusation. On this course. I consulted. He designed it to be impossible. Died before he could prove otherwise. How convenient that you show up now. Rowan's expression went cold. The temperature on the range seemed to drop. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of carved stone. Gunnery Sergeant Marcus Price died covering his team's extraction in Syria. He died doing his duty. He died honorably. He deserves your respect, not your skepticism, Major. Sutherland's jaw worked. He wanted to respond, wanted to reassert authority, but something in Rowan's eyes stopped him. Something that said she'd seen worse men than him, done harder things than this, survived conditions that would break him. He looked at Hollister. This is irregular. Agreed. If anything goes wrong, it won't. How can you be sure? Hollister looked at Rowan, at the rifle case, at Ghost Dope book on the bench, at 20 years of perfect scores on a qualification card. Because I know who trained her. Sutherland's eyes narrowed. Who? The man who designed this course. The implications settled over the range. Rowan trained by Ghost himself for 20 years, perfect scores every year, and now she was here, with his dope book, with his techniques, with his knowledge. Brennan looked at his rifle, then at Rowan. Ma'am, if you want to shoot, I can set up a different course, something smaller, more appropriate for the Centurion string, Rowan said quietly. Everyone stared. Quinn laughed, nervous. Ma'am, that's a 90-minute course, 100 targets. The best Marines here just failed it. I know. No disrespect, but we've been training on this for months. You just walked up. I know. Brennan shook his head. Ma'am, I appreciate your confidence, but this course breaks people. Breaks good shooters. Breaks the best we have. Rowan looked at him, her gray eyes steady, calm. Sergeant One String, if I fail, I leave. You never see me again. If I succeed... She paused, glanced at Hollister. You listen to what I have to say about Ghost, about this course, about what he was trying to teach. Sutherland stepped forward. Absolutely not. I'm not authorizing this circus. Hollister's voice cut through, command voice, the kind that ends discussions. I'm authorizing it, Major. One String, Ms. Ashford has clearance. She has qualifications. She has my permission. If you want to override me, call the commandant. Sutherland's face went red, but he didn't move toward his phone, didn't make the call. Because they both knew what the commandant would say, the commandant who'd served with Ghost, who'd authorized this course, who'd wanted to succeed. Fine, Sutherland said through clenched teeth. Let her fail. Let her embarrass herself. Then we can put this ghost worship to rest. Rowan showed no reaction, just looked at Brennan, waited. He studied her. This woman who'd appeared from nowhere, who carried Ghost's dope book, who spoke with quiet certainty, who had eyes that had seen things, done things, survived things. He made his decision. One string and he said. He picked up his M40A6, handed it to her. But I want to know who you really are when this is over. Rowan took the rifle, felt its weight, its balance. When this is over, Sergeant, you'll know exactly who I am. She settled behind the shooting bench, opened Ghost's dope book, began preparations. The Marines gathered closer. Quinn raised his phone, started recording. This would be something to document. Either the greatest success story they'd ever seen, or the fastest failure. Rowan didn't seem to notice the crowd, didn't seem to care. She was reading, always reading. Wind flags, mirage, temperature, barometric pressure, all the invisible variables that turn good shots into misses. She reached into her rifle case, pulled out a small cloth pouch. Inside, various items: lens cloth, small screwdriver, ballistic calculator, and something else. A dog tag, single, old, dented. She hung it from the shooting bench rail. Quinn zoomed in with his phone camera, read the name stamped in the metal. Price Marcus J. Gunnery Sergeant, United States Marine Corps. Rowan touched the dog tag once, gentle, like greeting an old friend. Then she settled into shooting position. Cheek to stock, eye to scope. Her breathing slowed, measured, controlled. Box breathing, 4 counts in, 4 counts hold, 4 counts out, 4 counts hold. Ghost's technique. From the observation tower, Hollister watched through binoculars. His hand steady, his heart not. Because he knew something the others didn't. Something he'd kept classified for 2 years. Something in a file in his office safe. Rowan's real background, her real work, her real name in certain circles. Call sign Winter. 127 confirmed eliminations across 3 war zones. Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, 20 years as a CIA precision engagement specialist. The most effective sniper most people had never heard of, because the best operators stay silent, stay hidden, stay ghosts. And Ghost Price had been her spotter, her partner, her teacher, for every single one of those 20 years. Now she was here, at his course, with his rifle, with his techniques, with his dope book and his dog tag and his final lesson waiting to be taught. Hollister lowered the binoculars. Show them Rowan, he whispered. Show them what Ghost wanted them to see. On the range, Rowan adjusted Brennan's rifle. 2 clicks left, bringing the 0 back, correcting for the conditions everyone else had missed. She settled, breathed, waited. The first target popped up. 200 meters, she fired. The target dropped. Green light on the scoreboard. The course had begun. The second target appeared at 250 meters. Center range, standard distance. Nothing exceptional except the weight it carried. 1 down, 99 to go, each one a step closer to proving Ghost right, or confirming the doubters. Rowan's breathing never changed. 4 counts in, 4 counts hold, 4 counts out, 4 counts hold. The box-breathing Ghost had taught her in 2004. Afghanistan, Paktia province, her first combat deployment. She'd been nervous then, 22 years old. Contractor badge still fresh. Ghost had sat beside her in the hide, placed his hand on her shoulder. Breath controls everything, he'd said. Control breath, control heart rate, control aim, control aim, and so on. Control aim, control outcome. 20 years later, his voice still guided her. She fired during the natural respiratory pause, that sacred space between exhale and inhale where the body achieves absolute stillness, where even blood seems to wait. The target dropped. Scoreboard showed green. Target 3 rose at 300 meters, left sector. The wind flag showed quartering breeze, 2 miles per hour from the northwest. She didn't touch her turrets. Instead, used the reticle markings, held .4 mils right, let the crosshair drift off center, trusted the ballistics written in muscle memory. The shot broke clean. Another hit. Corporal Quinn filmed from 30 feet back. His hands had steadied. This wasn't mockery anymore. This was documentation. History being written in real time. He zoomed in on Rowan's face, looking for signs of stress, concentration, effort, found only calm, like she was reading a familiar book instead of executing the impossible. Targets 4 and 5 came rapid sequence. 350, 400. She fired. Target 4 dropped before fully locking into position. She'd read the timing mechanism, anticipated the exposure window. Physics met preparation, both targets down. The scoreboard climbed. 5 green lights. Staff Sergeant Brennan stood with arms crossed, watching every movement, every decision. 22 years he'd been shooting. Thought he understood the craft's limits. Thought he'd seen every technique worth seeing, but this was different. Rowan wasn't executing a checklist, wasn't following a procedure. She was conversing with the wind, with the rifle, with the range itself. Target 6 appeared at 450. Steel plate. Wind had shifted. Now 3 to 4 miles per hour. She adjusted her hold. 0.6 mils. The change was instant. Automatic. Like her body knew before her mind calculated. The plate rang, clear tone across the desert, like a bell announcing something sacred. Major Sutherland watched from the observation area, arms behind his back, parade rest. But his jaw worked, grinding teeth, processing something that didn't fit his models. Civilian contractors weren't supposed to shoot like this, especially not women, especially not on Ghost's impossible course. He pulled out his phone, typed a message. Run full background check on Rowan Ashford. Classified clearance. Priority. Sent. Put the phone away. Returned to watching. Targets 7 through 10 came in steady progression. Rowan moved through them like reading sentences in a language she'd spoken for decades. 500, 525, 550, 575. Each distance presented different challenges, different wind, different mirage, different calculations. She adapted, adjusted, executed. 10 targets, 10 hits. Perfect so far. The crowd had grown. Word spread fast on a Marine base. Someone running Ghost course. Someone hitting everything. Someone they didn't recognize. Marines from other companies drifted over. Instructors, support staff, admin personnel who'd never touched a rifle but understood what perfect looked like. They gathered in respectful silence, watching, waiting, knowing that perfection was temporary, that failure always came, that humans make mistakes, waiting to see which target would expose her mortality. Target 11 rose at 550 meters, right side of the range. The wind turned chaotic. Flags showed no pattern. Gusting 2 miles per hour, then 5, then 3. Random, unpredictable. The kind of wind that made shooters guess, made them gamble, made them miss. Rowan paused, didn't fire, didn't move, just watched. Read the flags. Read the mirage. Read the grass bending and straightening in the distance, the earth breathing its irregular breath. She waited. 10 seconds passed. 15, 20. The target stood exposed, an easy shot in calm conditions. But conditions weren't calm, and easy shots fired in bad wind became hard misses. Ghost's voice echoed from memory. Never rush chaos. Chaos always settles. Wind always finds rhythm. Patient shooters hear it. Impatient shooters die not hearing. 30 seconds. The crowd grew restless. Quinn's camera captured their faces. Confused. Concerned. Why wasn't she shooting? Clock running? Seconds wasting. Opportunity slipping. But Rowan heard what they couldn't, saw what they missed. The wind wasn't random. It was cycling. 3 gust pattern. Strong, weak, medium. Repeating. She'd watched 2 full cycles, knew the third was coming, waited for the weak window. The flags changed, settled. Brief moment. 3 seconds maybe. She fired. Hit. The crowd exhaled collectively. Some had held their breath without realizing. That weight felt eternal. Competitive shooters didn't pause. Time was score. Hesitation was failure, but Ghost had taught patience. Brennan checked his stopwatch. 32 seconds. She waited 32 seconds for the right wind. A young Marine beside him asked, how did she know it would come? Because wind has rhythm, Brennan said quietly, his eyes distant, remembering Ghost lessons. Everything has rhythm if you listen long enough. Targets 12 through 20 came faster now. Rowan had found her flow, that state where conscious thought disappears and the body simply knows, where technique becomes instinct, where shooting becomes breathing. Automatic, essential, natural. The scoreboard climbed. 12, 15, 18, 20, all green. No hesitation, no errors, just pure execution. At target 20, she paused, reached for water, one small sip, set it down. Her hands remained steady. No tremor, no fatigue showing yet. Just controlled movement, deliberate, precise. Every action serving purpose. Nothing wasted. Ghost's dog tag swung from the bench rail, caught sunlight, flashed once, like a signal, like approval from beyond. Targets 21 through 30 tested different skills. 600 meters, 650, 700. The distances where wind reading became critical, where bullet drop demanded respect, where small errors compounded into large misses. Rowan consulted Ghost's dope book between strings. His handwriting filled the pages. Formulas, corrections, notes from 15 years of combat shooting, Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria. Every lesson paid for in blood and sweat and long nights in hides where mistakes meant Marines died. She made her holds. 4.2 mils windage, 6.8 elevation, reading the layered wind, ground wind pushed left, mid-range pushed right. She weighted her hold toward mid-range, where bullets spent most flight time, where wind had greatest effect. Each shot broke clean, each target fell. The scoreboard glowed green. 30 consecutive hits. No shooter in Centurion history had reached 30 perfect. The best previous attempt was 67 total, with misses, with errors, with red marks scattered throughout. Rowan had 30 clean, on pace for something impossible. The murmurs started, Marines talking in low voices, comparing what they witnessed against what they knew possible. The probability didn't add up. Humans make mistakes. Equipment has tolerances. Wind changes. Nobody shoots 30 for 30. Nobody. Colonel Hollister stood alone near the tower. He'd dismissed Sutherland to handle other duties. This moment didn't need the Major's skepticism poisoning the air. Didn't need doubt creating negative energy. This belonged to Ghost, and to the woman finishing what he'd started. Hollister had known them both for 18 years, since 2006. Fallujah, urban combat. He'd been a captain then, running a Marine company through hell. They'd attached to his unit, CIA contractors, precision team, call signs Winter and Ghost. He'd watched them work. Two people moving like one organism. Ghost with the spotting scope, Rowan with the rifle. They didn't speak much. Didn't need to. Hand signals, head tilts, finger movements. She'd adjust. Fire. Targets dropped. In 6 weeks, they'd eliminated 43 high-value targets. Every shot perfect, every call correct, every mission successful. He'd asked Ghost once how they achieved such synchronization. Ghost had smiled. "We don't fight the wind, sir. We join it, become part of the same system. When you stop being separate from your environment, you stop making mistakes." Hollister understood now. Watching Rowan, she wasn't fighting, she was joining, participating, dancing. Target 31 appeared at 700 meters. Rowan fired without hesitation, like the answer was written in her bones, like the wind had whispered its secrets and she'd simply believed. Hit. Targets 32 through 40 came in steady rhythm. She'd entered deep flow state, that space athletes call the zone, where time distorts, where performance transcends normal limits, where the impossible becomes merely difficult and the difficult becomes routine. 9 more hits. The scoreboard showed 40 green lights, solid, unbroken, a wall of success that mocked every previous failure. Brennan couldn't stop watching. His tablet lay forgotten. He'd pulled up old footage, Ghost teaching, demonstrating, explaining, but the screen stayed dark, because watching Rowan was watching Ghost. Same techniques, same philosophy, same calm certainty. Like Ghost had poured everything he knew into this woman and she'd refined it, perfected it, made it her own while keeping it his. At target 41, the wind died completely. Dead calm, flags hung limp, no mirage shimmer, glass conditions. Some shooters loved this, called it easy mode. Point and click. Can't miss. Ghost had taught different. Rowan waited. Target stood exposed. 700 meters in perfect stillness, almost impossible to miss. Just aim center, press trigger, collect the hit. She didn't fire. 5 seconds, 10, 15. Someone in the crowd whispered, "Take the shot." Perfect conditions. 20 seconds. Quinn zoomed in on Rowan's face, trying to understand, trying to read what she saw that others missed. Her eyes moved, watching, reading, interpreting signals invisible to most. 25 seconds. Then she fired. The instant her finger broke the trigger, Wind flags twitched. Slight movement. 1 mile per hour gust. The disturbance she'd been waiting for. The shift that was building. Invisible. Patient. Ready to betray any shooter who trusted the calm. She'd predicted its arrival. Timed her shot to meet it. Held into the coming wind before it came. Hit. Brennan set down his tablet. Walked closer. Stood 10 feet behind her position. Studied every micro-adjustment. Every breath. Every decision. He'd been teaching marksmanship for 15 years. Thought he understood the craft. Thought he'd mastered it. Watching Rowan, he realized he'd been teaching mechanics. Technique. Procedure. Hit your marks. Follow your steps. Trust your training. But this was art. This was conversation. This was shooting that transcended checklist execution and became relationship. She wasn't working against conditions. She was working with them. Partner instead of opponent. Targets 42 through 45 fell in quick succession. Rowan's rhythm perfect. Her timing impeccable. Each decision correct. Each execution flawless. The scoreboard climbed. 45 consecutive hits. Then came target 46. 750 meters. Pop-up. Brief exposure. 5 seconds. Wind swirling. Complex conditions. She settled. Read the mirage. Made her calculation. Finger moved to trigger. Then stopped. She lifted her head from the scope. Looked downrange. Full attention on the wind. On the flags. On the grass. On the story the earth was telling. The story most shooters never heard because they were too busy shooting to listen. 8 seconds passed. The crowd stirred. Uncomfortable. She had a shot. Difficult but doable. The clock ran. Why wasn't she taking it 12 seconds? Quinn captured it all. The waiting, the stillness. The patience that looked like hesitation but wasn't. This was reading. This was listening. This was what Ghost had died trying to teach. 16 seconds. Brennan watched the flags, tried to see what she saw, tried to understand what she heard. The wind was changing. Yes, shifting. The chaotic gusts were settling into pattern. 3 more seconds and they'd stabilize. 4 seconds and they'd be predictable. 20 seconds. The flags changed. The gust pattern broke. For 3 seconds, maybe 4, the wind found consistency. 5 miles per hour. Steady direction. Honest. Trustworthy. Brief window before chaos returned. Rowan fired. 800 meters. 2.4 seconds flight time. The bullet arced. Dropped. The wind pushed. She'd predicted. The math worked. Physics kept its promises. Hit. The crowd released breath they hadn't known they were holding. That weight had been unbearable. 20 seconds felt like 20 minutes. No competitive shooter waits that long. Time equals score. Speed equals success. Every instructor taught decisiveness. But Ghost had taught wisdom. 8 full seconds, Brennan said to himself. His voice held awe. She waited 8 full seconds for the wind to speak. Then 4 more to let it finish speaking. Targets 47 and 48 came rapid. She fired both in under 30 seconds combined. Making up time. Showing the weight wasn't indecision. Was strategy. Was listening. Was cooperation. Both hits. Target 49. Target 50. Both hits. 50 consecutive green lights. The best previous score was 67 total. With failures. With errors. With red marks documenting human limitation. Rowan had reached 50 without a single mistake. Without a single red. Perfect execution for 50 targets. The impossible was becoming documented fact. She paused at 50, took another sip of water. Her hand moved to Ghost's dog tag. Touched it. Held it. The metal warm from desert sun. Worn smooth from years against his chest. It held his name. His service number. His blood type. All the essential data needed to identify remains. But it held more. It held 20 years of partnership. 20 years of missions. 20 years of trust so absolute that words became unnecessary. It held every wind call he'd made, every correction he'd whispered, every moment they'd bet their lives on each other's expertise. Brennan approached, stood beside the bench, close enough to speak quietly, close enough to confess. "I need to tell you something," he said. Rowan looked up. "I was there. Syria, March 2022, when Ghost died." Her hand tightened on the dog tag, knuckles went white, but her face remained calm, controlled, waiting for him to continue. Brennan's voice cracked. "We were running evacuation. Mosul province, bad intel, ambush waiting. Ghost read it in the wind patterns. Saw the setup before we hit it. Told me to pull back. Wait for better conditions. He couldn't meet her eyes. I didn't listen. I pushed forward anyway. Aggressive advancement. Thought we could fight through it. Thought domination beats cooperation. Silence settled between them. Heavy. Weighted with 2 years of guilt. The IED took our lead vehicle. Ghost was in it. Brennan's throat worked. He'd moved to that vehicle because he knew it would be hit first. Took my spot. Saved my squad. Saved me. Rowan set down the dog tag carefully, like it might shatter. She looked at Brennan fully now. Really looked. Saw the weight he carried. The guilt that poisoned every lesson he taught. Every Marine he trained. Every shot he fired. He died because I didn't listen, Brennan said. Died proving his own philosophy. That fighting conditions kills you. That cooperation keeps you alive. I've been teaching Marines to fight ever since because, his voice dropped to whisper, because if I admitted listening was right, I'd have to admit I killed him. The confession hung in the desert air, raw, painful, true. Rowan was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice carried no anger, no blame, just tired understanding. He made his choice, Sergeant, saved his team. That's what Ghost did. That's who he was, not a victim, a professional, making the professional choice. I should have listened. Yes, you should have. She didn't soften it, didn't offer false comfort. But he forgave you the moment he made that choice. Saved you because Marines mattered. Because the mission was getting everyone else home. Because he believed you could learn from it. She touched his arm, gentle but firm. Now you're listening, now you're learning, now you're teaching his way instead of fighting it. That's how you honor him. Not by carrying guilt like penance, by carrying his lessons like legacy. Brennan nodded, couldn't speak. Emotion closed his throat, but something lifted. The confession had freed something. The guilt found its place. Not gone, never gone, but transformed into purpose. Finish watching, Rowan said. See what Ghost wanted you to see. See why he died believing it mattered. She settled back behind the rifle. Brennan stepped away, changed, lighter. The weight still there, but distributed differently. Shared now instead of borne alone. Target 51 appeared. Rowan fired. Hit. But now it meant something different. Not just her success, their success, Ghost's success, the success of listening, of learning, of letting the dead teach the living, of letting confession become transformation. The scoreboard climbed. 51, 52, 53. Quinn had stopped filming with his phone. Now he just watched, bearing witness. Some moments were too important to view through screens, too significant to filter through technology. This was one. This was history and healing happening simultaneously. This was Ghost working through Rowan's hands to teach what words never could. Targets 54 through 60 came in waves. Rowan flowing, the rifle singing, each shot a sentence in a story 20 years long. A story that started in Afghanistan, continued through Iraq and Syria, paused with Ghost's death, resumed today with his student proving his theories correct. 700 meters, 750, 800, 850. Each distance presented challenges, wind layers, temperature gradients, mirage distortions, bullet drop calculations that required understanding physics most shooters never studied. But Rowan had studied, with the best teacher available, for 2 decades, and now she demonstrated what that education produced. 60 consecutive hits. The crowd had swelled past 100. Marines, civilians, base personnel who'd heard something impossible was happening. They stood in loose formation, silent, respectful, watching perfection unfold, watching the impossible become real, watching Ghost's legacy secure itself one trigger press at a time. At target 61, a bee appeared. Desert bee. Large, aggressive. It circled Rowan's head once, twice, then landed on her right hand, the shooting hand, the trigger hand, right on the knuckles between first and second finger. She didn't move, didn't flinch, didn't shake it off, didn't adjust position. The bee walked across her skin, explored, decided if this warm surface was threat or opportunity. Its wings spread, flexed, preparing to fly or preparing to sting. Impossible to know which. The target was exposed. 800 meters, limited window, maybe 12 seconds remaining. The shot was there. The conditions were right. But the bee sat between her and the trigger, between intention and execution, between success and failure. 8 seconds left. Quinn filmed it. Couldn't help himself. This moment, this test, this demonstration of control so absolute it bordered on superhuman. The bee, the target, the ticking clock, the impossible calm. 5 seconds. The bee lifted off, flew away, disappeared into the desert sky, as if it had made its inspection and found nothing interesting. Just warm skin and steady hands and calm that even insects recognize as non-threatening. 2 seconds. Rowan's finger found the trigger. Pressure built. Breakpoint reached. She fired. Hit. The crowd gasped, then laughed, nervous energy releasing. That moment had been unbearable to watch. The insect, the seconds evaporating, the absolute stillness. Most shooters would have panicked, moved, missed, but she'd trusted, waited, executed. Brennan shook his head slowly. Unbelievable. I would have flinched, would have moved, would have blown the shot. A young Marine beside him said, she didn't even blink when it landed. Ghost used to tell a story, Brennan said, his voice quiet, thoughtful, about a sniper in Afghanistan. Woman contractor. She was on a high-value target. One-shot opportunity. Right before she fired, a scorpion crawled onto her neck. Sat there, she didn't move. Took the shot. Target dropped. Scorpion crawled off. Mission complete. Quinn looked at him. You think that was her? Brennan watched Rowan prepare for target 62. Ghost only told true stories. The targets continued. 62 through 70, all hits, no hesitation, no errors, just execution. Perfect, consistent, relentless, like watching a machine. Except machines don't read wind, don't predict, don't cooperate. Machines dominate, force, calculate through brute processing. This was different. This was partnership. This was conversation. This was art. At target 71, Rowan had been shooting for 75 minutes. Most shooters showed fatigue by now. Degraded performance, slower decisions, rushed shots, shaking hands, blurred vision. The body had limits. The mind had limits. Concentration couldn't maintain forever. But Rowan looked the same as target 1. Same calm, same rhythm, same minimal movement. Like she'd found a state where fatigue didn't exist, where the body became irrelevant and only the process mattered. Where shooting wasn't physical activity, but meditation. Breath, focus, execution, repeat. 71, 72, 73, all hits. Target 73 brought another test. 850 meters, edge distance, pop-up silhouette. As the target locked into position, a wasp appeared. Not a bee. Wasp, larger, more aggressive, more dangerous. It circled, once, twice, 3 times, then landed on the back of her right hand, on the shooting hand, on the trigger hand. The target had 4 seconds exposure remaining. The wasp was angry, territorial, wings vibrating, stinger visible, ready to strike. One sting and her hand would swell, hurt, shake. The string would end. 73 targets, so close to perfect, so close to proving Ghost right, all threatened by an insect. 3 seconds. She didn't move. 2 seconds. The wasp crawled across her knuckles, exploring, threatening, deciding. 1 second. It lifted off, flew. Gone. 0.5 seconds. Rowan fired. The target dropped the instant the shot broke. Split-second timing. Perfect execution under impossible pressure. The crowd erupted. Not celebration, shock, disbelief, awe. What they just witnessed exceeded normal human response. That was movie scene composure. That was legend-level control. Mother of God, someone whispered. She let a wasp walk on her hand during a shot. Brennan's professional pride warred with intellectual honesty. Honesty won. That's not training. That's beyond training. I don't know what that is. That's 20 years with Ghost, Quinn said quietly. That's 2 decades of learning control equals survival, of learning panic kills, of learning the mission comes first. Always, even before pain, before fear, before self-preservation. Target 74, 75, 76, all hits. The wasp forgotten. Already history. Already just another obstacle overcome. Another test passed. Another proof that control trumps chaos. At target 80, the scoreboard showed a wall of green. 80 consecutive hits. Past any record. Past any expectation. Past any reasonable prediction. This was perfection. This was Ghost validation. This was proof that his philosophy worked. That cooperation beat domination. That listening beat fighting. Major Sutherland's phone buzzed. He pulled it out, read the message. His face went pale, then red, then pale again. The background check had returned. He read it once, twice, 3 times, making sure he understood correctly. The words didn't change. Rowan Ashford, civilian contractor, Department of Defense, Central Intelligence Agency, Special Activities Division. Service period 2002 to 2022, 20 years. Security clearance, top secret, SCI. Additional caveats, he lacked authorization to view. Primary role, precision engagement specialist. Call sign winner, confirmed eliminations 127. Theater of operations, Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria. Partner/spotter gunnery sergeant Marcus J. Price, USMC, status retired. Honorable separation, April 2022. Sutherland stared at the screen. 127 confirmed kills. The number seemed fictional, impossible. That was more than legendary snipers achieved in full careers. That was Chris Kyle territory, Carlos Hathcock territory. That was the kind of record belonging to men with books written, movies made, monuments built. But she was a woman, a contractor, someone nobody had heard of, because the best operators stayed invisible, stayed unnamed, did the work and vanished. No glory, no recognition, just results. And Ghost had been beside her. Every mission, every shot, every one of those 127 eliminations. The legendary Marine whose course nobody could pass had spent 20 years in the shadows teaching this woman, building her, refining her, creating something that transcended individual capability and became perfect partnership. He walked toward Hollister, phone in hand, face conflicted. "Colonel, I need to speak with you." Hollister didn't look away from the range. "Is it urgent?" "I just received her background check." "I already know what it says." Sutherland froze. "You knew. You knew who she was, and you authorized." "I authorized a woman honoring her fallen partner's memory." "Yes." Hollister turned now, met Sutherland's eyes. His gaze was iron. Ghost Price and Rowan Ashford worked together for 20 years. Every mission she completed, he spotted. Every target she eliminated, he confirmed. They were the most effective precision team Special Activities Division ever fielded. When Ghost died, she retired. Couldn't continue without him. She's killed 127 people. She saved thousands more. Every high-value target she eliminated was planning attacks, building bombs, and coordinating ambushes. She did the work nobody wants to acknowledge, the work that keeps Marines alive. Hollister's voice hardened. The work Ghost believed in enough to die doing. Targets 81 through 90 came in steady rhythm. 9 more hits, 90 consecutive green lights. The impossible was no longer theory, no longer hope. It was documented, recorded, real. The scoreboard didn't lie. 90 hits, 0 misses. 10 targets remained. 10 shots between Rowan and perfection. Between Ghost theory and Ghost proof. Between everything Ghost believed and everything the doubters dismissed. The crowd pressed closer, unable to help themselves. Drawn to the moment, to the history, to the transformation of impossible into inevitable. Target 91 appeared at 900 meters. Maximum distance. Edge of the M40A6's effective range. She consulted Ghost's dope book one final time. His calculations for 900 meters. Formulas tested across 15 years. Proven in combat. Written in his precise handwriting. Instructions from beyond the grave. Final lessons from teacher to student. She made her adjustments. Elevation 8.7 mils. Windage 4.4 mils right. Every variable accounted for. Every factor calculated. Then she released it all. Became empty. Became still. Became the space between thoughts where perfect action lives. She fired. 3 seconds of flight time. The bullet arced, dropped, drifted. Physics worked its beautiful equations. Wind pushed, gravity pulled. The bullet curved through space. Hit. 91. 9 targets left. Hollister checked his watch. 88 minutes elapsed. 2 minutes remaining. 9 targets. Tight but doable. If nothing went wrong, if concentration held, if conditions remained stable, if the shooter stayed perfect. Target 92, 850 meters. Hit. Target 93, 800 meters. Hit. Target 94, 750 meters. Hit. 6 targets remaining. The crowd had gone silent. Complete silence. Not even breathing audible. Just watching. Just waiting. Just bearing witness to something they'd tell their children. Tell their grandchildren. The day perfection happened. The day impossible became real. The day Ghost's ghost proved skeptics wrong. Target 95, 700 meters, hit. Target 96, 650 meters, hit. Target 97, 600 meters, hit. 3 targets left. Quinn's hands trembled violently. He fought to keep the camera steady. This moment had weight, had gravity, had significance that transcended sport and became testament to dedication, to partnership, to honoring the dead by finishing their work. Target 98, 500 meters. She fired. Hit. Target 99, 400 meters. She fired. Hit. 1 target remained. 100. The range fell into absolute silence. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Flags hung limp. Grass stopped moving. Desert birds ceased calling. The earth itself waited. The final target would appear at 900 meters. Maximum range. 4-second exposure window. 1 shot. 1 chance. 1 moment between Rowan and perfect. Between ghost theory and ghost proof. Between failure and legend. The target began to rise. The final target locked into position. 900 meters downrange. A steel silhouette against brown earth and blue sky. Maximum effective range. The edge of possibility. The line between skill and prayer. 4 seconds. That's how long the target would remain exposed. 4 seconds to read wind, calculate drop, account for temperature, barometric pressure, Earth's rotation, all the invisible forces that turn bullets into curves instead of lines. Rowan settled behind the scope. Her breathing had not changed in 99 targets. Still the same 4-count rhythm, still the same controlled calm. But something was different now. This wasn't just another target. This was the proof, the validation, the answer to 2 years of doubt. This was Ghost's legacy waiting to be confirmed or denied. She read the mirage, thermal inversion layer, cold air trapped beneath warm. The shimmer patterns showed wind gradients, multiple layers moving in different directions. Ground wind northeast at 2 miles per hour. Mid-range wind east at 4. Target wind shifting, 3 to 5. Inconsistent, complex conditions. The kind that broke confidence and made shooters guess. But Rowan had seen worse. Syria, 120-degree heat. Targets shimmering like ghosts. Wind that changed between heartbeats. She'd made those shots. With Ghost beside her, his voice calm in her ear, his calculations perfect, his trust absolute. She could hear him now. Not real, just memory, but clear as morning. Read the layers. Weight your hold by where the bullet spends its time. Trust the math. Trust yourself. She made her calculation. Elevation 8.7 mils. Windage 4.1 mils right. High hold, favoring the mid-range wind because that's where a bullet at 900 meters lives longest, flies slowest, drifts most. 2 seconds remained. Her finger found the trigger, built pressure, felt the wall, the break point, that perfect edge between intention and action. 1 second. She fired during the natural respiratory pause, between breaths, between heartbeats, between thoughts. In that space where the body achieves absolute stillness and the universe holds its breath. The rifle spoke. The bullet launched. Federal gold medal match. 175 grain. Boat tail hollow point. Velocity 2,600 feet per second. Spinning 1 in 12 twist rate. Stabilized. True, it flew. The crowd watched. Nobody breathed. Nobody moved. Time stretched. Became elastic. 3 seconds of flight felt like 3 hours. Like 3 years. Like the entire weight of Ghost's legacy compressed into the space between trigger break and impact. The bullet dropped, arced, drifted right. The wind pushed, exactly as predicted. The math held. Physics kept its promises. It struck. Center mass. The target rang. Clear tone. Perfect. Final. The electronic scoreboard updated. 100 green lights, 0 red, perfect score. The silence held for 5 full seconds, as if the world needed time to process what had just happened, to accept that the impossible had become real, that Ghost's course could be beaten, that perfection existed outside theory and lived in documented fact. Then the eruption came. Marines exploded in celebration, shouting, cheering. Some threw hats, others embraced. Corporal Quinn dropped his phone, forgot he was filming, just stood with his mouth open, staring, processing, failing to process. Staff Sergeant Brennan didn't move, couldn't move. He stood frozen. Watching Rowan, she'd set the rifle down gently, cleared the chamber, made it safe. Her hands steady, her face calm, like she'd just completed routine paperwork instead of rewriting Marine Corps history. She reached for Ghost's dog tag, held it in her palm, closed her fingers around it, her eyes closed, lips moved, saying something, some private word, some thank you or goodbye or both. Brennan walked forward. The crowd parted. He approached the shooting bench, stood across from Rowan. She opened her eyes, met his gaze. Gray eyes that had seen too much, done too much, survived too much. "Who are you?" Brennan asked, his voice barely above whisper. Before Rowan could answer, Major Sutherland's voice cut across the range. "I can answer that." He walked forward, phone in hand, face unreadable. He stopped beside Brennan, looked at Rowan, then at the phone, then at the assembled Marines. "Her name is Rowan Ashford, call sign Winter, Central Intelligence Agency, Special Activities Division, 20 years of service, 2002 through 2022. He paused, let the words settle. "Confirmed eliminations, 127. The crowd went silent again. Different silence. Shocked, awed, frightened. 127. The number seemed impossible, unreal. That was legendary status. That was the kind of record belonging to men with books written about them. "She's a CIA operative," someone whispered. Rowan said quietly. "Retired, April 2022. Sutherland continued reading. "Primary partner, Gunnery Sergeant Marcus Price, United States Marine Corps." He lowered the phone, looked at Rowan. "He was your spotter, for all 20 years. Rowan nodded once. "Ghost was my partner, my teacher, my friend. Every mission we ran, he was beside me. Every target we took, he confirmed. Every decision we made together." Her voice carried across the silent range. "When he died in Syria, I couldn't continue. Didn't want to. This course was his dream, proving that cooperation beats domination, that listening beats fighting. I came back to finish it for him." Hollister stepped forward, and she just did. 100 targets, 100 hits, 0 misses. The first perfect score on the Centurion string, proving Gunnery Sergeant Price's philosophy works. Brennan looked at the scoreboard. All green, still glowing, still impossible, still real. He looked back at Rowan. "You could have told us who you were, what you'd done. Would you have listened?" Rowan asked. "Or would you have dismissed me as a CIA killer? Someone who doesn't understand Marine culture? Someone who got lucky in the shadows?" Brennan had no answer, because she was right. If she'd led with her background, he would have been skeptical, would have thought CIA operated different, thought contractors played by different rules, thought her success came from different circumstances. But watching her shoot changed everything. She hadn't relied on special equipment, hadn't used classified techniques, hadn't employed some secret CIA methodology. She'd used Ghost teachings, the same teachings available to every Marine, the same philosophy Ghost had tried to share for 20 years. Cooperation, not domination, listening, not fighting. "Teach us," Brennan said. The words came out before he could stop them, before pride could interfere, before rank could create barriers. Just truth, simple, direct, necessary. "Teach us what Ghost taught you." Rowan looked at him, at the Marines gathered around, at faces hungry for knowledge, hungry for the secret that turned 100 targets into 100 hits, hungry for whatever made the impossible possible. "I'm a civilian," she said. "We don't care," Quinn said. Others nodded. Hollister cleared his throat. "Ms. Ashford, I'm authorized to offer you a provisional instructor position. 14 days, civilian contract. You'd teach what Gunnery Sergeant Price wanted taught. Show these Marines his methods. And if they don't improve, then you tried, and Ghost would be proud you tried." Rowan was quiet, thinking, measuring. Finally, she nodded. 2 weeks, but I teach Ghost's way, not the Corps way, not the traditional way, his way." "Agreed," Hollister said. Sutherland stepped forward. "Colonel, this is highly irregular." So was that shooting display major? So was Ghost's entire career. Irregular seems to be where innovation lives. Sutherland looked at Rowan, at the scoreboard, at the Marines watching him, waiting for his response. He could fight this, could throw obstacles, could make things difficult. But he'd seen 100 consecutive hits, seen perfection, seen proof that maybe the old ways weren't the only ways. 2 weeks, he said finally, "but I'll be watching." "I expect nothing less, Major," Rowan replied. The crowd dispersed slowly, Marines talking in excited voices, replaying the shots they'd witnessed. The Wasp, the wind wait, The final target. Already the story was growing, taking on mythology. By tomorrow, the entire base would know. By next week, the entire Corps would hear. The woman who shot perfect on Ghost course. The CIA operator who came back to honor her fallen partner. Brennan stayed behind, helped Rowan pack her gear. The M40A6 went into its case. Ghost's dope book closed. The dog tag came down from the rail. She held it a moment longer, then placed it carefully in a small pouch. He'd be proud, Brennan said. He'd be relieved, Rowan replied. He died thinking nobody would ever validate his work, that the Corps would dismiss it as impossible, that all his years proving the cooperation works would be forgotten. We won't forget now. That's the hope. They walked off the range together. The sun had climbed higher. The morning's cool had burned away. Desert heat settled over Camp Pendleton. Another day, another set of hours. But something had shifted. Some change that couldn't be unmade. Some knowledge that couldn't be unknown. The next morning, Rowan met 12 Marines in a classroom. Brennan, Quinn, PFC, Bryn Hart, 9 others, hand-selected. The best shooters in Echo Company. The ones most likely to absorb what she taught, most likely to carry it forward. She stood at the front. No podium, no PowerPoint, no official curriculum. Just her. Ghost's dope book. 20 years of experience distilled into 14 days. I'm not here to make you snipers, she began. You're already snipers. The Marine Corps made you that. I'm here to make you listeners. Ghost believed the best warriors don't fight their environment. They join it, become part of the same system. Stop being separate. She opened the dope book, showed pages. Ghost's handwriting, formulas, diagrams, notes from 15 years of combat operations. This is 20 years of learning, 20 years of mistakes corrected, 20 years of listening to wind and watching bullets fly and understanding that nature doesn't care about your rank or your pride or your training. Nature has rules. Physics has laws. You can fight them and fail, or cooperate and succeed. Bryn Hart raised her hand, young, 19, fresh-faced. Ma'am, how do we cooperate with wind? Rowan smiled. First genuine smile anyone had seen from her. You stop seeing it as enemy. Start seeing it as partner. Wind wants to push bullets. That's its nature. You can't stop it, can't overpower it. But you can predict it, account for it, work with it, dance with it. She spent the first week teaching observation. Not shooting, just watching. They sat on the range for hours, watched flags, watched mirage, watched grass bend, watched dust move, learned to see the invisible writing that wind carved into the world. Some Marines grew frustrated, wanted to shoot, wanted action, wanted results. Rowan remained patient. Ghost used to say you can't hear wind if you're always talking. Observation is the foundation. Everything else builds from here. By day 4, they began to see it. The patterns, the rhythms, the way wind cycled, how gusts came in waves, how calm preceded change, how the earth breathed in predictable intervals if you watched long enough. Quinn captured everything on film, made a documentary, interviewed Marines, recorded Rowan's teaching, archived the knowledge. He understood this was history. This was the moment Marine Corps sniper doctrine changed. He wanted it preserved. On day 5, Rowan let them shoot. 50 target strings. Not the full Centurion. Just practice. Application of what they'd learned. Results varied. Some hit 42, some hit 38, one hit 47. Better than before, not good enough yet, but better. Improvement is easy, Rowan said. Consistency is hard. Ghost didn't want improvement. He wanted transformation. Day 6 brought crisis. Rowan arrived at the range to find her personal M40A6 damaged. Scope glass scratched deep. Zero thrown completely off. Intentional sabotage. Someone who didn't want this program to succeed. Someone who believed CIA contractors had no place teaching Marines. Someone who thought the old ways were the only ways. Hollister reviewed security footage. Shadowed figure. Face obscured by cap. No clear identification. The investigation would continue, but the damage was done. Rowan addressed her students. Someone tried to break my equipment, but they can't break knowledge. Gear is replaceable. What Ghost taught me lives here. She tapped her head, then her chest. And here. No one can sabotage that. The Marines rallied, Brennan especially. This felt personal to him. Ghost had been his teacher too. Brief, just 6 months, but impactful. Seeing Ghost methods attacked felt like watching his memory defiled. We won't let this stop us, he said. Rowan nodded. We won't. They ran another 50-target string. Every Marine improved. Results ranged from 41 to 46 hits. Progression, growth, the transformation beginning. On day 8, Hollister called Rowan to his office. The Commandant is coming. 5 days. He wants to observe a final test. What kind of test? Full Centurion, but not individual. Team, 5 shooters, 20 targets each, 100 total. If the team averages 85% or better, Ghost's method becomes official core doctrine, implemented across all sniper training. Rowan processed this. 85 hits out of 100. As a team. Exactly. If they fail, the program ends. You leave. Everything goes back to how it was. And if they succeed, Ghost's philosophy becomes Marine Corps standard. His name lives forever. His legacy secured. The weight settled on her. On them all. 5 days, 85 hits required. Anything less meant failure. Meant Ghost died for nothing. Meant 2 weeks of work wasted. We'll be ready, she said. But she wasn't sure. 85% was high, required consistency. Required every shooter performing above their current level. Required perfection without being perfect. Required excellence under pressure. Required everything Ghost had believed was possible. The next 4 days blurred. Dawn to dusk training. 70 target strings. 80 target strings. The Marines pushed themselves. Pushed each other. Results climbed. 63 hits. 68. 71. Better. Still not 85. On day 12, they ran a mock Centurion. Full test conditions. 5 shooters. 20 targets each. Official scoring, results came in. Shooter 1, 16 out of 20. Shooter 2, 19 out of 20. Shooter 3, 17 out of 20. Shooter 4, 18 out of 20. Shooter 5, 13 out of 20. Total, 83 out of 100. Too short. So close. But not enough. The Marines sat dejected, discouraged. They'd worked so hard, improved so much. But improvement wasn't the standard. 85 was the standard. And they'd missed it. Rowan gathered them. Ghost used to say the body knows before the mind believes. You know how to do this, every one of you. You've proven it in practice. The only thing stopping you is doubt. But we're not ready, Hart said. Young, scared, facing failure. You're ready, you just don't trust that you're ready. Rowan looked at each of them. Tomorrow the Commandant arrives. Tomorrow you'll run the real test. Tomorrow you'll either prove Ghost right or prove the doubters right. Your choice, your shush, your legacy. That night, Rowan sat alone at the range, ran her own Centurion string, not for score, for meditation, for connection, for conversation with Ghost's memory. She shot 97 out of 100, missed 3, targets 31, 66, 88, wind gusts. Each time she'd rushed slightly, anticipated instead of reading, forced instead of flowed. She smiled, wrote in the dope book, "Mrs. Remind me I'm still learning. Still listening, still human." Ghost would have approved. The next morning arrived cold, coastal fog, the kind that burned off slow. The Commandant arrived at 0800, full dress uniform, ribbons and medals, 3 stars, a man who'd seen combat in 3 wars, who'd served with Ghost in Afghanistan, who'd authorized this course because he believed in its designer. He stood with Hollister and Sutherland at the observation tower, said nothing, just watched, evaluated, waited. 5 Marines approached the firing line. Hart, Brennan, Quinn, Corporal Cole Ramsey, Corporal Ivy Maddox, the best Echo Company had. The students who'd absorbed the most, who'd transformed the most, who carried the weight of Ghost's legacy on their shoulders. Rowan stood apart, not coaching, not interfering, just watching. She'd given them everything she could. Now they had to execute, had to trust their training, had to become what Ghost believed they could be. The test began. Hart shot first, young, nervous, pressure visible in her shoulders, in her breathing, in the way her hands trembled slightly. She settled, remembered the lessons. Box breathing, 4 counts, 4 counts, 4 counts, 4 counts. Calm descended, her shots came clean, 16 out of 20. Not perfect, but solid, respectable, a foundation. Brennan shot second, veteran, experienced. He'd been skeptical at the start. Converted now, believer. He moved through his targets with measured confidence. Read when, made calls, trusted his preparation. 19 out of 20. Excellent. 1 miss. 1 moment of doubt that cost him. But 19 was strong. The team score climbed. Total so far, 35 out of 40. Quinn shot third, the documenter, the archivist, the one who'd filmed everything. Now he set aside his camera, became participant instead of observer. His 20 targets came with mixed results, some brilliant, some hesitant. The pressure got to him, made him second guess. 17 out of 20. Good. Not great, but good. Running total, 52 out of 60. They needed 33 out of 40 from the final two shooters, 82.5% rate needed, higher than current average. The pressure intensified. Ramsey shot fourth, steady, reliable, not flashy, just competent. He'd absorbed Rowan's lessons about consistency over perfection, about repeatable over lucky. He shot his rhythm, found his flow, made his calls, 18 out of 20. Strong, very strong, total now. 70 out of 80, one shooter remained. Corporal Ivy Maddox, 23 years old. 2 tours, good fundamentals, strong under pressure. She needed 15 out of 20 for the team to hit exactly 85 out of 100. 15 out of 20 meant 75% individual accuracy. Doable, but not guaranteed, not easy, not certain. The entire base seemed to hold its breath. Maddox approached the firing line. Rowan caught her eye, nodded once. Simple gesture. You've got this. Trust yourself. Trust Ghost. Trust the wind. Maddox settled behind the rifle. Checked her dope. Read the flags. Began her breathing cycle. Target 1 appeared. 200 meters. She fired. Hit. Green. Target 2. 250 meters. Hit. Green. Targets 3 through 10. All hits. 10 out of 10. The crowd murmured. She was perfect through 10. Halfway done. 5 more hits would seal it. Would prove everything. Would make Ghost's legacy permanent. Target 11. 400 meters. Wind shift. She adjusted. Fired. Hit. Green. Target 12. 500 meters. She fired. Hit. Green. Target 13. 600 meters. Complex wind. She waited. Read the pattern. Fired. Hit. Green. 13 out of 13. 2 more hits needed. Target 14 appeared. 700 meters. Pop-up. She settled. Fired. Miss. The bullet struck right. Just inches off, but off. Red light on the scoreboard. First failure. The margin for error just shrunk. She needed both remaining shots to hit. 15 out of 20 meant 3 misses allowed total. She just used 1. No room left. Maddox breathed. Reset. Didn't let the miss poison her. Ghost teaching. Misses are feedback, not failure. Information. Use it. Target 15. 750 meters. She adjusted from the previous miss. Read the condition that had changed. Accounted. Fired. Hit. Green. 14 out of 15. 1 target left. If she hit, the team scored at 85. If she missed, they scored 84. 1 target between success and failure. Between Ghost's vindication and his burial. Between transformation and tradition. The final target appeared. 900 meters. Maximum range. Difficult conditions. The wind had picked up. Flags snapping. 5 to 7 miles per hour. Gusting. Unpredictable. Maddox read the mirage. Checked her dope. Ghost's formulas. Rowan's teachings. 20 years of knowledge compressed into this moment. She made her hold. 8.6 mils elevation. 5.2 mils windage. High. Right. Trusting the math. Trusting the wind. Trusting herself. Her finger found the trigger. Built pressure. Found the wall. Rowan whispered. Too quiet for anyone to hear. Trust it, Ivy. Ghost is with you. Maddox fired. The bullet flew. 3 seconds. The longest 3 seconds in Marine Corps history. The bullet arced, dropped, drifted. The wind pushed. Exactly as predicted. The math held. Impact. Center mass. The target dropped. Green light. The scoreboard updated. 85 out of 100. Exactly. Perfect. The crowd erupted. Marines shouting, celebrating. Maddox stood, looked at Rowan. Tears streaming down her face. Rowan nodded, smiled, mouthed 2 words. Ghost's proud. The commandant descended from the observation tower. Walked to the firing line. The Marines snapped to attention. He stopped in front of them. Looked at each face. Then at the scoreboard. Then at Rowan. 85%, he said, his voice gravelly. Worn. Gunnery Sergeant Price told me 20 years ago that Marines needed to learn cooperation over domination. I didn't fully believe him. I authorized this course because I respected him, not because I thought he was right. He paused, let silence settle. I was wrong, he was right. What I just witnessed proves it. He turned to Hollister. Colonel, effective immediately, I'm authorizing the price method for Corps-wide implementation. All sniper training programs will incorporate these techniques. This course will be renamed the Ghost Protocol, and Ms. Ashford will be offered a permanent civilian instructor position. Hollister saluted. Yes, sir. The commandant looked at Rowan, extended his hand. Thank you for finishing what Marcus started. Rowan shook it. He finished it, sir. I just provided the demonstration. 1 week later, a ceremony was held. Small, dignified. The commandant presided. Families attended. Parents, spouses, children. People who'd supported Marines through training, through deployment, through sacrifice. Rowan stood at the front, uncomfortable with attention, preferring shadows, but respecting the moment, respecting what it meant. The commandant spoke. War is evolution. Those who adapt survive. Those who don't perish. Gunnery Sergeant Marcus Price understood this. He spent 20 years proving that cooperation beats aggression, that listening beats shouting, that wisdom beats force. He gestured to Rowan. His student came back to honor his memory, to finish his proof, to show us what we'd been missing. He presented her with 2 items: an official instructor badge, civilian contract, permanent position, and Ghost dog tag, recovered from Syria, returned through official channels, now given to the person who'd earned it. Rowan held the dog tag, felt its weight, its warmth, its history. She spoke, voice quiet but carrying. Ghost taught me that shooting isn't about proving anything. It's about being at peace before you press the trigger, about understanding that the rifle doesn't fail, the wind doesn't lie. Only our interpretation fails. She looked at the Marines, at Brennan, at Quinn, at Hart, at Maddox, at all who'd learned, changed, grown. These Marines didn't need me to teach them how to shoot. They already knew. They needed permission to stop fighting themselves, permission to trust, permission to cooperate instead of dominate. That's what Ghost wanted. That's what they achieved. Brennan stood, asked permission to speak. Granted. Ma'am, will you stay train more instructors? Build what Ghost started. Rowan considered. 3 more months, then I train your trainers. Ghost used to say, teach them until they don't need you. That's when you've succeeded, when they can teach others without you present. That's the goal. 3 months later, Rowan sat at the same range. Dawn, alone. She ran a personal centurion string, not for score, not for proof, just for practice, for meditation, for connection. She shot 97 out of 100, 3 misses, targets 23, 58, 88, all wind gusts, all moments where she'd anticipated instead of read, forced instead of flowed. She smiled, wrote in Ghost Dope Book, misses at 23, 58, 88, wind gusts, should have waited, lesson continues. She looked up. The observation tower held 10 figures. New instructor candidates, watching her, learning from her, preparing to carry forward what Ghost had started, what she'd demonstrated, what would now spread throughout the Corps. She closed the dope book, looked at the first page. Ghost's handwriting. Still clear, still perfect, still true. Rowan, the rifle doesn't fail. The wind doesn't lie. Only your interpretation fails. Listen longer than you shoot. Semper Gumby, Ghost. She touched the words. Gentle. Like touching an old friend, like saying hello and goodbye in the same gesture. Then she stood, walked toward the new instructors. Time to teach. Time to share. Time to build the legacy that would outlive them all. Behind her, Ghost dog tag hung from her gear bag, catching sunlight, flashing, like a signal, like approval, like a ghost watching over those who remembered, those who learned, those who carried forward the lessons that never die. The wind picked up, pushed across the range, moved flags and grass and dust, speaking its language, telling its truth, waiting for those wise enough to listen. Rowan heard it, understood it, joined it, just as Ghost had taught, just as she'd always done, just as the Marines were learning. The impossible made possible, the dream made real, the Ghost made permanent, one shot at a time, one student at a time, one lesson at a time, forever.